So I'm Terese McGordy, and I actually live in Cleveland, Ohio, a little suburb called Brecksville. And I'm a franchise consultant. The name of uh, the company is FranNet of Northern Ohio. We are a franchise also, so we drink our own Kool-Aid. And FranNet is the overall franchise, mothership.
The mothership, I like that. How long has FranNet been around?
Over 35 years,
Wow. Okay. And how long have you been with FranNet now?
about 8 years.
8 years. Okay. Wow. So many questions because of the nature of your industry and the business that you work with. So you're a consultant. So I guess explain your role in the organization.
Yeah. So I'm really just I hate using the term business broker because, it's not a bad connotation. It's just not a really good explanation. I'm a franchise consultant, so I don't sell other businesses. I only represent franchises.
Hmm.
And I'm like the match.com, really spend time. We give our clients an entrepreneur profile, and we spend time with them talking about what is it that you would like your business to do for you. As opposed to sometimes people go out, they look for a business, or they know what business they want to get into because they've already done that in the regular world, in corporate America. Rather than looking at sometimes what their transferable skills are,
Hmm.
and recognizing that, maybe if I really like pets, I could take all of the skills that I have in, being the CEO of this or that, and apply it to the pet business ownership world, and, really be working out my passion, but being passionate about what the role of the owner is. The old E-Myth revisited, as we were talking before we started all of this. A lot of people don't realize that they have to work on their business, not in their business.
Hmm.
And that's what hopefully franchised ownership does for people, is teach them how to work on their business, not in their business. So, I talk to people about, their values, their goals, their motivations, and, most importantly, their budget. And then we represent about 200 plus franchises that we have already vetted out.
Hmm.
So they have to have really a 90% or better success rate to be part of our inventory. And I take those businesses and look at, what their values and motives and culture and all of those things are, to show my client, so that we're trying to line up, that match. But then most importantly, helping people do their due diligence, because that's the place where people typically fail, much.
Right.
I don't want to say much like yourself, but you got burned out, you didn't fail. Because you didn't know what you were really getting into. You knew you were getting into a successful business,
Right.
but you didn't know what you were getting into. And so we really try to make sure our clients know what they're getting into, so that then they're very, very successful.
That's several excellent points in there. And the business that I purchased, I told you, was founded in 71. And there's several businesses that I work with that have been around 30, 40 years like that. And they sell something that people need,
Yeah.
a product or service that people need. So they've been successful as far as staying in business and being profitable to some degree. But there's a massive opportunity gap that they've never understood until I'm a nuisance and come along and say, hey, there's a big opportunity gap here. And they're like, it's been going all right for 40 years. And it's like, is that good enough? And that's their decision, not my decision to make,
Some it is. For some it is.
And for some it is. And, but doing the due diligence on what it looks like. I like your phrase, passionate. I think I got it right. Passionate about the ownership role
Right.
in the business. And I think that's really key too, because that is much that's much different. That's that business skill set, which is different than just the vocation or the concept of the business or the model of the business itself. So, 200 plus franchises that you guys represent. Are you working with prospective franchise owners around the country or in your geographic area, or what does it look like?
Both. Both.
Okay.
So I'm on the ground here, networking and all of those things. And then yes, if I connect with people, nationally, and actually we're in Canada also, then I can help them through, uh, through that chain.
Sure.
To be honest, I know Cleveland well. So, I do a great job here in Cleveland. I would probably bring in a consultant from another area, just because they know, what's already sold out in that area, what's not sold out, and those kinds of things. But I can work across the country.
That's good. And help me understand the nature of the team. I mean, you're a consultant and a major part of that relationship. Or is there one or two other folks that you team up with to provide that experience and service? Or
No, no. I mean, I can and I do if I need to. But it's me. Much like you, it's you. Um,
sure,
right. So I just, again, spend the time with the client myself and help educate the client. Now, as far as FranNet goes, or my team here in Cleveland, there are several of us, and so we put on FranNet and locally. We put on webinars, business ownership webinars.
hmm.
We put on spotlight webinars about different franchises that are want to, be spotlighted by us.
Right.
That just kind of tell a little bit about who they are and what they do. And then I have, many clients that I've already helped over the years. So, sometimes I have people look at my LinkedIn, or I send them recordings of, people that give good recommendations about how I operate. But I think that the most important thing is that, it's taking the time to get to know people and letting them, um, just ask their questions. And a lot it going into business for yourself is risk adverse, and just helping people explore the opportunity, be that sounding board for them, and reminding them of the reasons why they wanted to go into business. I think sometimes when people going into business for themselves, they don't do enough due diligence, so they don't know what they don't know,
Hmm.
and then they get scared. Which, if you weren't nervous about going into business, we would all have to say you're a little bit crazy. But they still need somebody to help them remember why they're exploring this. And did you get enough information to determine, is this a good business choice or not? To be
Right.
honest, probably 2 out of 5 people only buy a business after they talk to me. Um, because it's not easy.
I would be concerned if it were 80% did buy.
Yes.
You know, which probably indicates there's a different level of due diligence being done there.
Well, that's
To have the
exactly
full
it.
picture, and like you said, to your point, right?
Right. Well, and that's the beauty, right? I put people through a process, much like, I know Action Coach puts people through a process, right? And those people who follow the process are the ones that want to learn, they want to grow, they want to expand their business. And the same with me. When people go through the process, that tells me they can be a good franchise business owner because they've gone through the process. And that's what owning a franchise is about, is following the process.
Absolutely, yeah. We hear about systems a lot, and most small business owners don't understand what systems should look like unless they've been in a organization that's had a good model. But that's a great point. The beauty of franchise is that there's systems there. Not that all of it's figured out. You still have to engage your marketplace and create your presence, but a lot of it's figured out that would have taken you a lot of time. And
Right. They've
That's
spent the
the
money and time to make all the mistakes. Not that they're perfect, but they've made a lot of mistakes. You're spending, that extra, quote unquote franchise fee to um to buy out the mistake time.
that's right. That's
Right?
right.
I personally think that a lot of times when people start out as a consultant, hang their own shingle. And there's nothing wrong with that either. There's some people that are very, very, very successful doing that. And they were able to figure it out. Me, I just want a recipe. I'm not the kind of person that is going to throw in a little bit of this and a little bit of that into a recipe. No, I'm going to follow that recipe to the T. Because that's where I've found the most success. When I go off on my own, it's not so successful.
Well, that's funny you use that analogy. I use that pretty frequently. Hey, who here's baked a cake?
Yeah.
And everybody's hands go up, and it's like, and the next question is, okay, can you bake that cake without looking at the recipe? And
Right.
basically, nobody says they can. And so, why do we all go into business without the recipe? We all, generally speaking, people go into business without figuring out the recipe. And trial and error is expensive, and the dollars and
Yeah.
time being most important there. And that's what you're buying with the franchise, is that time, right?
Right. You could be Kenny Kings, right? I think that was his name. The guy, who was 70 when I think he was that old when he finally got somebody to buy his chicken recipe and put all the stores, right?
Right.
Or he could have probably just bought an existing chicken place. But everybody has their role in the world.
Yeah.
Right now, I think franchise business ownership is very relevant for people because you have a lot of people coming out of the corporate world that don't want to go back to the offices. They don't know what they want to do, and they would have never thought of some of the opportunities that I can bring to them. I have a client that 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe, bought an Aussie mobile pet grooming business. Whoever would have thought that there was a franchise doing that, but there was and is. She has 7 vehicles, 7 vans on the ground out there cleaning or, taking care of dogs and cats. And she just bought another territory.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you just don't think about. I mean, there's all kinds of painting franchises or this franchise food concepts, but it's getting the opportunity to look at things that you didn't even know were out there to explore.
It's you said people don't know what they don't know earlier, and it was in a different context, but the same's true here. You don't even know that these services are needed in the marketplace until you uncover it sometimes. And you're like,
Exactly.
oh, there's a business, there's a career in that that's possible. And again, I think what you do is really a interesting industry to have your hands on because it goes so many different directions.
Yeah.
And I explain, I have people from time to time, what's coaching like, and it is fascinating because I might be talking in the morning with somebody that's got a $200,000 business, and in the afternoon somebody's got a $20 million business, and every conversation in between. And it's fascinating because we're dealing with the same concepts but on different scales and with different resources available, and it's fascinating, but it's a lot to keep up with too. That's why you kind of have to be around it for a while to really be able to manage all the moving parts. Tell me, let's use your example. So I'm out of corporate. I am a smart and accomplished team member on that side, but I'm interested in more autonomy and less red tape, and give myself a chance to tap into my brilliance. What are some characteristics that would indicate to you as a professional in this space, personality attributes or characteristics that would indicate this is something that might be for me?
Well, I always start with our entrepreneur profile. I believe you guys start with DISC
Right.
for the most part. And so we really talk about our, achiever, belonger, societal, or, an emulator, and each one of those things means something else, but probably kind of really fits back to DISC. And we have our franchisors have their top performers take the same test, right? The same quiz or profile. So, that is a starting place. So like a societal is somebody that's going to be a little bit more interested in businesses that are related to education or to, home healthcare, things that are helping people.
Mm-hmm.
And, there are different franchises that, uh, nurture the people that are more belongers, right? That need to have people around them to help support. And, so it's very hard to answer your question without you having kind of taken that profile.
Which would give it some direction and conversation. Yeah.
Gives direction and conversations, and then to, understanding your budget. But, there's franchises out there that, are, just below 100,000, probably between 70 to 100,000 that could be a good fit. There are franchises between, then all the way up from 100,000 to, 500,000, whatever you want. So just really understanding the client, how many people do they want working for them? My husband and I used to own automotive repair facilities. We opened our first business when we were 21, and it was a Shell Auto Care, and
Okay.
and we built that up to 3, sold that, and bought a Goodyear automotive repair facility. Terese McGordy, I'm not saying anything, I had my fair share of employees. I don't want any more. So some people don't mind employees, other people don't want any more employees. So, how many people do you want working for you?
Great question.
What if you were just managing a manager? Would one employee be okay? And he was managing the rest, or she was managing the rest of those people? What do you want to wear to work? Although I think COVID has changed all of that. Nobody, I don't think, has to wear a tie to work anymore, but what do you want to wear to work? How do you want to have to show up? Do you care if it's brick and mortar? That costs more, or do you want to work from home? You're probably like me. I work from home, but that also means that I'm running out a lot to do networking meetings and things like that. What is your end goal? I personally don't have anything that I could resell, because it's a one-off kind of business. So if reselling a business is important to you, then we need to be looking at different things, or leaving a legacy for your kids. We need to be looking at different things. So a lot of things that people don't necessarily think about, are the things that we need to talk about before I can make any franchise recommendations.
That's excellent. I'm glad you walked through what you just did, because people don't even know what questions to ask.
Yeah.
Right. So that's, I think what you just articulated there, that might be one of the most valuable sound bites, in my opinion. So far as these are just a handful of the factors that need to be considered, whether it's a franchise or not.
Yeah.
Just getting into business, the franchise can be your shortcut to some aspects of it. Much like, the trial and error. How can you avoid the trial and error? That's how I see my role.
Mm-hmm.
I went through the trial and error. I made every mistake. I recovered from them all. You can do that too, or we can just hang out some and you can avoid it.
Exactly.
And with the franchise model, I just think it's beautiful when it's executed well and supported well. But you guys vet that very hard too, who you're representing.
Well, I think every franchise concept, though, also, at some point in time, sometimes when people are in business for themselves, there comes a time where you've heard the franchisor voice enough sometimes,
Mhm.
that you still need that coach now to take you to the next level.
Yeah.
Because maybe you've owned only one unit, or one territory, and now you would like to own more territories. Well, maybe to get to more territories, you need an outside voice to help you get there.
Yeah, being able to scale once you've established yourself is it's a whole new business at that point.
Exactly.
Whole new objectives, dynamics, more people, and all this
Yes.
kind of thing. I remember one of the first conversations with one of my clients just popped into my mind. We were working on, okay, let's it's hard to draw out a 5-year org chart, but let's just think about a 3-year org chart. Where would you like the business to be in 3 years? And this is a 25-year business, so they've been around for a little while. And he mapped that out, and he was the head honcho, and da 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 da. I said, I only see one problem with this. And I drew one line off the top of it and put another circle there and marked his name out there and put GM and put his name up here. I was like, you need to take another step at that point, whenever that point happens, so that someone else can operate that business for you, which gives you more time to guide the business.
Yes.
And work on the business with most of your time. His time's too valuable to be working in the business, making the donuts every day. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, that's true with any franchisee, right? How do you, and I will say, when my husband and I bought our Goodyear, we only wanted one Goodyear in our minds, back then, with what we knew, 2 Goodyears didn't mean double income. And my husband is kind of a control freak. Can you let go of enough of that control stuff?
Yeah.
Or do you need a coach to help you let go of some of that control stuff so that you can have more than one?
Well, that you must have been listening to the conversation I had right before we got on. I'm working with a client, awesome family business, 7 or 8 employees, and dad is handing over to daughter over the next couple of years, and wants to start taking hands off. 9-year-old business, and he expressed, I'm having trouble letting go of the control and this kind of thing. So I was able to coach him through what it looks like to coach your team, is what I was talking to him about.
Very good. Yes.
I was helping him. I said, you need to start assuming the role of the guide and the mentor for your team.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being in the mix all the time. We don't learn by listening to somebody tell us. That's giving a man a fish. We learn by doing, which is teaching a man to fish. So you need to be shifting your role to that in your business, and a couple of other analogies and examples we talked through. And now he's got some actionable ways he's going to start doing that in conversations and interactions with his team and with their clients that they work with, because they see him as the guy.
Yes.
You got to retrain those people so that the team is the guy,
Yes.
And
well, because then you also don't have a resaleable asset, right? Going into business most of the time is about building up an asset. And if you are the guy or woman, whatever, then you can't build up something. And that's why you see all of these succession coaches and people like yourself out there trying to help people recognize that if you are the person running the business, it's of no value to anybody else,
because they would be purchasing a job, not a business.
Yes.
They'd be purchasing self-employment. And if that's what they want, that's okay. However, the multiplication factor on the value is a lot different when it runs. It can run without you.
Exactly. And when you're looking at franchise business ownership, it's the same thing. Franchisors don't want you working in the business. They do not want you working in the business. They don't want somebody that knows how to cut hair by a sports clips or Supercuts or whatever, because then you'll never work on the business. You'll always be working in the business. And that was kind of really where our, fall down in the automotive industry was, back when we bought our franchise, that was when, it was kind of a chuck in a truck kind of mentality back then, right? We own it, my husband would fix the cars and stuff like that. And it's hard to pick yourself out of that spot.
That's right.
Because then, you can always do everything. Obviously, you're the business owner. You can do everything better than anybody else. And I'm not talking bad about my husband. He's a great guy. But unless you can elevate yourself out of that spot.
Oh, that's the whole hang up. I mean, I call it the invisible line or glass ceiling, you might call it too, but it's between that manager or director, not manager, but director and owner.
Mhm.
How do you make that shift? And it's through your team. And that's the missing piece in so many small businesses is how do I shift from the way of doing, I built this thing from ground zero or wherever to where it's at now. How do I completely shift my role?
Yes.
At the same time, you're shifting your identity, which is not so easy to do.
Yeah.
So you've really got to be willing to do it, understand the value of that from a couple different perspectives, and be willing to be patient with yourself and be consistent and frankly build an accountability structure around it because we're not intended to do these kind of things and have identity shifts by ourselves.
Yes.
You've got to have some kind of accountability structure built around it,
Yeah. And I think a little bit that's where franchises have been successful is that you're already coming in as a business owner. They're trying to teach you not to be a doer of the business. Yeah, know what the business has to do, but you need to be the owner. And these are the places you need to fill first.
And how powerful is environment?
Yes.
So when you're in a franchise environment and there are dozens or hundreds or maybe thousands of other franchisees running around, there's going to be a percentage of them who are working in their business, which isn't necessarily the model, but there's going to also be a great percentage of them that are executing correctly.
Yes.
Or per the recipe. And you get to be around that and ask them questions and they become a mentor for you as well. So there's a community aspect that's really valuable.
I couldn't agree with you more. That was said perfectly because I believe in a franchise family, right? You can create that, in a non-franchise world. It's a little bit harder, I think, because sometimes you do look at that other person as your competition. I have great friends in FranNet that are my accountability partners. We talk every week, about what are you doing to grow your business? Last week you said you're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's really nice when, even in the gas station business, when we owned our Shell station, and we bought parts from a certain company and they would take a certain percentage of our parts, put it into a kitty and along with a bunch of other people. And we would go on a trip with these people every year. And it was, so refreshing to talk to a guy in California that owned the same kind of business that I did, exploring the same kind of problems that I had. And maybe he had some solutions, maybe I had some solutions. And, that's just, there's nothing better than having that kind of community. And I think that's the nice thing about franchising too, is when you're starting out you're looking for culture, right? Which is an overused term anymore, I think. But, you want to make sure that everything that the people at the top believe in, that they're the same, you don't want to mix. If you're a Republican and they're a Democrat, they're extremely liberal and you're not. You want to be with like-minded people.
Mm-hmm. It's the word culture is overused, but culture is not overused.
Correct.
Right? Yeah, which I understand is what you meant. So I've been working with one business that comes to mind for 2.5 years, and they've been around for 40 years. And some of the topics that come up in our sessions, working with the owner, and I work with one of their managers too. And the topics that come up, it all was rooted in culture. So I had the opportunity last week to ask, okay, so tell me what are your core values would be the kind of same thing. What are your core values again? Oh gosh, you go find the core values, right? Okay, well it's this. I mean, he could have listed 3 of them off the top of his head, but not all 10. Went through it and I said, okay, so explain the situation that, and this is a little bit of a coaching point, but explain the situation that you're having some issue with this one team member through the language of the culture. And said, so let's, like, which one of the culture aspects was not exhibited very well by this team member when they did that? He said, well, this one. And I said, well, explain that. Well, it's because this, he handled this way. Okay. What other point of culture? And we went through, and 8 out of 10 points of culture had a bearing in the conversation on what that employee had decided, how he had decided to handle a situation.
Yeah.
And I said, do you have more ammunition now? Not that you need ammunition, but do you have more context now to be able to share in a positive, constructive way with that team member versus it being about what you want?
Yes.
Versus this is how we operate. Mm-hmm. And but even long time businesses that have awesome culture statements or values listed, unless you are using that language in your day-to-day from leadership down, the frontline team or the middle management team will never exhibit it or pay attention to it.
Right.
It'll never be a part of the fabric of what's happening. So, so few businesses do that because it's intangible until it hits the P&L.
Yes.
Because it does impact the numbers, but you just can't see it.
Well, you can't see, and I think that that's, again, part of the due diligence, right? And that's part of when you're going to work for someone. When people are looking for a job, they're looking for a job. And there's nothing wrong with that. But many times, because they didn't inspect the culture, once they get there, they realize, oh, not a good fit. Yeah. And so it's not good for them, and it's not good for the company. And, and that's why being in business for yourself is really great, because one, you get to create your own culture. Even if, you have a franchise and they have their culture, but then as a business owner, you get to create your own culture. And a lot of people don't realize the flexibility. I mean, yes, is business ownership work, and is it hard work, and blah, blah, blah. But, sometimes when I talk to people, they think it's 24/7. Well, you know what? Your job is 24/7, just as much, except for you don't have the flexibility to jump out today and go to your kids' baseball game, right? Or the flexibility to just jump out and have a doctor's appointment and not explain to anybody that I had a doctor's appointment. Or you need a mental health day. You just wake out and take a mental health day, right? Whatever it is. Plus, then you can work on a Saturday morning if you feel like it, right? Owning your own business gives you, flexibility.
It does. And that just brings to my mind, because I experienced it too, 22, 23 employees, and I was I would work all day is a retail business I had. So I'd work all day in the stores, hands-on with everything, come home, have as much quality family time I could before my son and wife, who's a teacher, both pass out. And as soon as they pass out, I get my computer back out, and until 1 o'clock in the morning. And this went on for years. And it's because I was not in the habit of putting boundaries up around my time. So
yeah,
if your life is such that as an employee you feel like it bleeds over into your personal life, it's not going to be any different as a business owner unless you choose it. It's going to be, and then you got to set up boundaries. And that's a lesson I'm looking at myself in the mirror on this. Still learning to put those boundaries around and leave the computer here when we go to town. Those kind of things, and just cut it off. I've got one of my master coaches that I work with. I think it's awesome. He is with Action Coach. He was the first coach that Brad Sugars hired, actually, like 30 years ago. So he was my coach for a year. And he said, yeah, I was having trouble working too many hours outside of normal business. And I actually, to get serious about it, I dug up a hole in my slab in the basement, and I buried the power supply to my whole office. and then I poured concrete over it and put it on. I put it on a timer and poured concrete over it. And at 5 o'clock, the power went out. That's spec.
Wow. Wow.
Like that's a different level of commitment. You know what though? He's one of the most successful coaches in the world, and it's
Right.
because he's willing to build boundaries around his.
Well, and that's what you have. I've gotten to the point where I don't check my emails on the weekends. I mean, it's just not worth it anymore. If there is a problem or there is a solution, it doesn't matter what's there. I can't do anything about it until Monday morning anyhow. Yeah. And once I walk out of my office at 5 o'clock, or whatever time it happens to be, I don't, I might look at them to swipe one way or the other, that there's another junk mail or whatever, but I don't look for, because it doesn't matter. And you need, studies show, the Bible shows we need to have that, downtime.
That's right. That's right. There's a place for that, and it needs to be in its place.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so to carry that forward, as a business owner in a franchise business, you can protect your time as you see fit, and you need to do that. I guess is our point. That's fantastic. So how can someone, I guess we can include some links if you desire. And what is the website where folks can find you?
www.frannet.com/TMCGROARTY.
Perfect. So I'll include that link when we get this posted. And anyone specifically you're looking forward to an interaction with? Anybody you're looking for in particular? Is there a particular franchise that you'd like to find the right match for that's in mind right now?
Yeah, we have some great franchises that, I would love to find people, people that would love to have even a semi-absentee franchise, because there are a lot of them out there nowadays, where you can still keep your day job if you want, diversify your portfolio, hire a general manager and you manage that person. But, I would love to talk to career coaches, make connections with the career coaches, executive recruiters, and some of the wealth managers. Sometimes some of them are a little afraid occasionally to recommend me because it means people might be taking some money out of their portfolio, but really they can also borrow against their portfolio. They
Yeah, well, you can also increase it.
Yeah. Right. So those are the people that I would love to talk with, and any groups that think. I have what's called a business ownership exploration, webinar that I can do, where we really talk about, the advantages and disadvantages of, hanging your own shingle, starting a business from scratch. We talk about buying a resale business, and we talk about franchise business ownership, because there's advantages and disadvantages to each one of those things. And just about, again, the ability to look at the federal disclosure document. What do you need to be looking at on those things? What kinds of things, if you are looking at buying a franchise, what kinds of things do you need to do when you're exploring that opportunity? Franchise business ownership is the only one that you can, talk to other people that are in the same exact business, ask them the same questions, and get the answers, right? If you're buying a manufacturing business of some sort, there's no other manufacturing business exactly like yours to get the answers.
Right.
And I always make my clients, I don't make them, I mean, I encourage them to talk to people in that franchise that are not doing well. I think it's important to hear, why are people not doing well, so that you can potentially not make those same mistakes.
Oh, that's excellent advice. Yeah, excellent perspective. So I'll include a couple of links, and I'm just reminded too. You do spotlight webinars.
Yes.
on some of the franchises from time to time. So perhaps you can drop some of those links as those occur in the group as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
be happy to do that.
next few weeks and months. So, well, it's been very interesting having a conversation with you,
Yeah,
and you got my wheels turning like really fast right now.
good.
That's
I
a,
love to do that. Much
yeah.
like you, that's what I love. I love helping people. You know, out of all of this, the other thing that I forgot to say is it doesn't cost people anything to use me. You know, I'm really like a realtor. You know, I show people opportunities. The franchisor um, gives me a referral fee if someone buys a franchise from them.
Cool.
So, you know, it doesn't cost people 1 extra cent to use me. They could, if they went to that same franchisor on their own, it would cost them the same exact amount as using me. Um, and, you know, again, it's a great opportunity to learn about other things that you wouldn't know existed.